Part 64. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 632. M.R.S. Ender, the legendary mage of the prophecy system, has been in a bad mood recently. It's not because of research progress. Since the little silver dragon joined, the research progress of the branch of astrology has been rapid. Well, I have to say that the Dragon Clan still has a great advantage in this regard. It's not because students are disobedient. Among her disciples, there are still some who are hardworking and talented. At present, it seems that there should be no problem for someone to inherit her mantle and advance to legend. Mainly because, money, Miss Silver Dragon is very capable, but the price is also very high. Every time M.R.S. Ender stepped into the Star Dome and saw the expanded bed of gold coins in the center of the hall, her heart felt a throbbing pain. Ms. Yinlong doesn't want illusory contribution points, things that lie in the account and can be transferred at will. She wants gold coins, gold coins. Moreover, the branch of prophecy and astrology is famous for its ability to only go in and out. He lacks the ability to make money and relies solely on financial allocations, making him extremely poor every day. Now there is another big gold coin swallower. We can only hope to achieve great results soon. Well, recently, with the help of Miss Silver Dragon, several special rays were discovered in the Star Dome, which seem to be able to fundamentally overturn the Radiance cult's definition of light. Of course, multiple verifications are needed. So, M.R.S. Ender ran more diligently in the Star Dome, spending 7 or 8 hours every day. However, this morning, she finished the group meeting, read the paper, and walked lightly into the grand hall on the top of the Tower of Babel. Where is my silver dragon? I'm such a big silver dragon. I'm so big, standing there like a hill, lying down 20 or 30 meters long, and all the astrology branch mages have to go around the silver dragon. Why is it suddenly gone? It was so hard to get here. That was a silver dragon, a young silver dragon. He was full of curiosity about human society and magic. He was not too mature or powerful, so he was very cooperative. I still have a lot of discoveries waiting for her to help verify. Where is Miss Sarah? There was silence all around. The black gauze on M.R.S. Ender's face was fluttering, and the crystal ball in her hand was turning gently, and she suddenly stared at a magician in the corner. Enrique, tell me. That. The magician whose name was called came out of the queue tremblingly. Look left, look right, bite the bullet and answer. Miss Sarah went downstairs to watch the court session. It is said that it was Master Nordmark's case against Master Herbert Bradley for infringement of reputation rights. M.R.S. Ender frowned slightly. She knew the origin of Miss Silver Dragon very well, including how she met Greet in the Northland, how she was abducted by him back to Nevis, and how she followed him back to her hometown. Now, someone has infringed upon Greet's reputation, causing Greet to file a lawsuit? It's normal for Miss Silver Dragon to jump. In fact, given the straightforward nature of the Dragon Clan, the fact that she did not kill the magician on the spot could be regarded as because she was under the positive influence of Gretel, or she was concerned about the power of the Tower of Babel. Right, Bradley. Galena Bradley is a prophecy person. It's someone from her astrology branch. How did his relatives provoke greed? So what's going on? Magicians present, look at me and I look at you. In the end, Enrique bit the bullet, lowered his voice, and reported what he heard. M.R.S. Ender frowned deeply after hearing this. After hearing the defendant's unbelievable speech, he snorted coldly and directly ordered. Let Bradley take care of his juniors. Don't come to the Star Dome until the matter is settled. A shame. How dare you let your juniors cause trouble like this? Even if Miss Silver Dragon knew about that guy's relationship with the prophecy system, she would be able to fly out of the Star Dome and never come back. Yes. So, the second person who disrupted the order of the court, or, in other words, interfered with the progress of the court proceedings, rushed into the grand tribunal. Cyrilla was finally calmed down and went to sit down quietly. The necromancy magicians who were watching the trial automatically gave up their empty seats and allowed the eldest lady to take her seat. However, Miss Yinlong wrinkled her nose, turned a corner, and went to the plastic energy department. The smell soaked with negative energy and the aura of the dead is really unpleasant, tisk. Anyway, there are seats in the first row over there in the plastic energy department. You can watch Gretel's speech up close, and you can also glare at the defendant, show your teeth, and wave your fists. Master Herbert Bradley has aged visibly. The judge did not support him, and neither did the jurors. There was laughter in the auditorium, and everyone was laughing at him. No one believed him. The hope of destroying the reputation of the Nordmark mage has obviously come to nothing. His daughter-in-law took the child away directly and refused to return it. According to past parliamentary precedents, the child is likely to stay with the mother. You. He subconsciously arched his waist and stared at Greet from his messy hair, with a heavy sound in his throat. Just as he was about to say something else, the door to the tribunal suddenly opened, and someone strode in and slapped him on the head. You shut up. Boom, the judge looked on with cold eyes. It was not until the slap was finished that he rang the bell again. Anyway, the Grand Inquisition suppresses all destructive spells, so relying on physical strength alone won't cause any serious problems. Well, unless it's like the lady just now. The copper bell rang, and an invisible ripple spread out, suppressing all fluctuations in the field and conveying a calm and stable mood to everyone's hearts. The judge raised his voice. Please obey order and do not disrupt the court. Archmage Bradley felt that he was simply a disaster. When something happened to a junior in the family, he just didn't pay attention and didn't want to take care of it, so dirty water was poured on him, causing him to be reprimanded by the legendary mage. Why is he so unlucky? By the way, if your son doesn't want his wife to be touched, you can just solve it at home. If you can't take care of your wife well, don't find trouble with outsiders. What's wrong with finding trouble with the healer? Do you know how well connected a healer can be? Do you know how valuable a healer is who can cure diseases that others cannot and can do things that others cannot? Not to mention, it is a cesarean section and painless delivery, which are universal abilities that most female magicians may benefit from. Such a healer can kill you without relying on the legendary teacher behind him. Uncle Master Herbert's eyes were filled with fear. His backer, the thickest leg in the family, instead of facing him, came up and ordered him to apologize. Shut up, Archmage Bradley glared at his junior with a cold face and said firmly. Apologize immediately. Make amends. Whatever Master Nordmark wants you to do, do it. Master Nordmark. The 15th level Archmage turned to face his junior, who was 9 levels below him, and bowed his head deeply. It was me who was not strict in disciplining my younger generation. For the damage to your reputation, I will definitely order him to apologize and compensate you. If he can't afford it, I will be responsible for compensation. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, and ask for all kinds of things. It's the end of the month, so hurry up and hand over your last monthly ticket. Don't hold it in your hand anymore. Thanks to @SKTZH666 for the reward of 3,000 starting coins. Thanks to @Hotkalin for the 500 starting coins reward. Thanks to @bookfriend1304022346406409 for the 100 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 633. The situation in the courtroom took a turn for the worse. The Archmage slapped and scolded, and Herbert Bradley shrank. When it's time to apologize, When it's time to bow, behave like a rabbit, or like the clay that is kneaded at will in the hands of a transformation magician. Cyrilla is happy. This is how it should be. Those who insult Gretel are all bad guys. If you give him an advantage, you should let him apologize until his mouth is dry and bow until his waist breaks. Archmage Carlyle was very happy. Unknowingly, Gretel has grown to this point. Without relying on the teacher to intervene, without letting any senior brother mediate for him, he can make a great magician bow his head by himself. Very good, like this. In the auditorium, the female magicians who had felt insulted before were also very happy. People with dirty thoughts and bad intentions should learn a lesson. Even the judge, clerk, and jurors were happy. The case has a happy ending. No one party will clamor that the trial is unfair, and moreover, they will get extra benefits. After get off work, you can have a drink at the bar and chat about this interesting matter. And not happy. Except for the defendant, who had his head hanging to the ground and said sorry incoherently, the only one left was Gretel was not happy at all. He didn't file this lawsuit just to be apologized to, or even because he was angry because he was insulted. He had to say this out loud. If, just to vent his anger, he went to a teacher or a senior brother to complain, and asked a big boss to come out to put pressure, it would obviously be much more efficient. It's not a big deal to ask that guy to kowtow 100 times at the hospital door, or hold up a sign to apologize for 3 days and 3 nights. He filed a lawsuit with the Parliament Tribunal, made the matter bigger, and attracted as many people as possible to see it. He wanted to make a point. It is to leave a precedent in the court and let everyone know that women should not be restricted by secular rules and give up seeking medical help. But now, his own reputation has been cleansed, but the publicity he wanted to do is gone. Everyone's focus has gone to strange places. There was chaos for a long time before the judge rang the bell repeatedly and drove everyone back to their seats. After restoring order in the court, he looked at Greet seriously and asked seriously. Mr. Nordmark, Master Bradley has admitted the infringement on your reputation and is willing to make compensation. So, do you have any requirements in terms of compensation? Just mention it. Mention it boldly. As long as it's not too outrageous, I can give you a verdict. The judge secretly encouraged Gretel in his heart. Mages have always slandered and insulted each other, and the solution was mostly violent. Either initiate a duel and beat each other until one party falls, or one party gives in and compensates the other party in every possible way, or one party flees thousands of miles away until he gains confidence and makes a comeback, or neither party can kill the other, and look at each other with murderous intent. If one party gives in like this, it's best to be sentenced. It would be no problem for him to use all his wealth to compensate. Unexpectedly, Gretel pondered for a moment, then bowed to him seriously. Insults and slanders can be dealt with in the following ways. First, apologize. He has already apologized, so that's the end of it. The entire court fell silent, followed by chaos. Archmage Carlyle almost jumped. What? That's it? Little Greet, don't be too talkative. Let it go gently this time. Next time, someone will step on you. There are not just 1 or 2 people who think the same as him. The judge rang the bell several times before suppressing the restlessness in the courtroom and asked Gretel. What's next? Secondly, eliminate the impact. Bad things always spread faster than good things. It takes 100 good words to offset the impact of 1 bad word, Gretel Lang Lang replied. He led a funeral procession, beat gongs and drums in front of my medical clinic, and used a loudspeaker to curse and curse, which could be heard for miles around. He also made nonsense in the court, which everyone heard. So, we must eliminate the impact of these words. Greet pondered for a moment, considering whether to ask the guy to shout his apology to Wijaja or Shishaja. The elder of the defendant, Archmage Bradley, breathed a sigh of relief and quickly took over the conversation. Then let him take the original team, put on a loudspeaker, and tour around the medical center to apologize for 10 miles. After shouting, he will stand at the gate of the Tower of Babel and shout the apology all day long, from sunrise to sunset. It would be great if it could be solved like this, it would be nice if it could be solved like this. As long as Master Nordmark doesn't care about it anymore, don't make the whole family angry about this matter, just a junior who is old and can't advance, just tossing it around. He thought he had a good idea. After saying that, he turned around and saw that his great-nephew's face was red and his teeth were clenched. He slapped him again and shouted, "What are you doing? Not convinced? You don't have to shout if you don't want to. Ask a magic control mage to control you and force you to shout a circle. As for the cost of casting the spell, it will be deducted from your family property. I'm willing to take action." In the auditorium, a female magician of the magic control system immediately shouted. There was a shout, and the audience's seats were filled with clear and crisp sounds. "I am willing to. I am an 8th level magician. I promise to control it. I can give you half the price. The Archmage exhales deeply and inhales deeply. Originally, he thought that he only needed to appease the Nordmark mage. Now it seems that the anger of the control system should not be underestimated. This unlucky junior, has offended a large group of female magicians. Not only the charm control department, but also the prophecy department has a large group of female magicians. The legendary mage stationed in the Tower of Babel, Lady Ender, is also a woman. That's it, he concluded decisively. The judge looked at Greet and confirmed that Greet had no intention of objecting. The head of the defense party took the initiative to agree to compensation, nodded, and rang the bell. It is decreed that Master Herbert Bradley shall be responsible for eliminating the impact, as follows He read the words of the Archmage exactly. Then, he turned his head and asked Gretel. Anything else? Gretel was confused. Only then did he sadly discover that he had not paid much attention to the legal provisions of the Parliament in recent years. How should the crime of defamation be punished? Should he be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention, public surveillance, or deprivation of political rights? Are there any relevant laws and regulations in this world? I'm not sure if the Parliament has any other penalties for this situation, and I'm not sure if his situation is enough. He bowed to the judge respectfully. If there is, it will be dealt with in accordance with the laws of the Parliament. If the punishment is unfounded by law, then no further punishment will be imposed. All dispositions are up to you. Judge. Why did you dump the blame on me again? Thanks to @HJ1942 for the 100 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 634. The verdict was passed, and Gretel was victorious. Before he could enjoy the joy of victory, he was buried by the crowd. The female magicians of the enchantment and control department swarmed up to him, surrounded him, and rushed to ask. Master Nordmark, does a cesarean section hurt? Is it really possible to have no pain at all? Master Nordmark, my sister is about to give birth. Can I make an appointment to give birth at your place? Master Nordmark, how many mothers can you take care of in one day? Will there be too many people to manage? Master Nordmark, how are the accommodation conditions at your medical clinic? I heard Vera said that you need to bring your own shelter cabin. Mage Nordmark. Gretel. Can you please stop surrounding me so tightly and let me breathe? Fortunately Cyrilla saved him. Miss Silver Dragon took a step forward, raised her head high, and stood shoulder to shoulder beside Greet. He raised the volume and snorted loudly. Snort. Even if the human form is not powerful enough and is suppressed by the magic circle of the tribunal, the trace of dragon power leaked is enough to make the female magicians pale and subconsciously step back. For those who react quickly, quickly throw inspiration technique to yourself. This elf lady is so fierce. We don't want to pick up your boyfriend. Most of us are married with children, or at least married. The questions we came here to ask are all about having children. The circle relaxed a little, and Gretel let out a breath and glanced at Cyrilla gratefully. Then, he skillfully raised his smiling face to comfort the patient, raised his hands, and pressed down. About the safety and personal experience of caesarean section, I will write a paper another day and find a journal to publish it. As for the capacity of Oak Grove Medical Clinic, this. He smiled sheepishly. At present, our dedicated obstetrics building is used for medical research. The service targets are mainly poor pregnant women, and the conditions are limited. As for the building with better conditions, we can't afford to build it yet. Can't afford it? Cyrilla quietly pricked up her ears. Is Greet short of money? How much does it cost? I have saved a lot of gold coins. It can already be spread, well, it covers the ground under one of my legs. Gretel, if you need it, I'll lend it to you first. Gretel gave her a stop sign without expression. You can't borrow money, and you can never borrow Miss Yinlong's money. His hospital is a gold-swallowing beast, and no matter how much money comes in, it will be thrown into the medical investment. All investments will ultimately benefit the poor in Nevis and beyond. This is doomed. Once you invest, you will never pay back the money. He put on a smile and faced the female magicians. We cannot afford to build a building that meets medical cleanliness standards, and the people who can independently perform caesarean sections have not yet been trained. So far, everyone is either asked to bring their own shelter cabins, or they seem to have to endure the conditions in the obstetrics building. The conditions are met. Then build one. That's it? Build one. Let's pay together. I'll pay 100 gold coins. I'll give you 100 too. How long will it take to save money like this? Go back and apply to the teacher, raise funds, or use research funds. It's only one building, so it's not difficult. That's right. Building a house is not expensive, but the magic circle is more expensive. Please ask the teacher to talk to the alchemy workshop. Build a building. There must be at least 50 wards. 50 rooms are not enough. I want 100 rooms. Gretel was sweating profusely. Ladies, female magicians, what kind of trouble do you want to cause in this VIP obstetrics building with 100 wards? The VIP ward is for rich people. To be precise, it is for rich people who have to pay more than 2,500 gold coins for one childbirth, including surgery and magic. Even the obstetrics department of the International Department of Peking Union Medical College Hospital does not have that many wards. That's Concord. Concord. The entire permanent population of 21 million in Beijing, plus the pregnant women from other places who are eligible to be admitted to Zihe, together, there are not that many wards to spend a lot of money to live in. What are you asking for 100? If all the rich people in Nevis who can afford 2,500 gold coins to give birth to a baby without feeling distressed are added together, there will be a demand for 100 births a year. Wait a minute, in the entire Nevis, how many female magicians give birth to children every year? Even if you include the wives of male magicians, how many are there? The entire Grand Inquisition fell silent for an instant. The defendant had long since slipped away, and so had the judge and clerk, who had no interest in the subject. The other people present were all mages from the evocation, control, necromancy, and a small number of other departments. There is no one engaged in population, municipal administration, or statistics. No one can answer this question. You have to ask me this question. A voice suddenly sounded at the door of the court. Gretel looked around and saw a tall red-haired man, parting from the crowd and striding inside. Behind the man, followed an older female magician in white robes. She looked at Gretel with a kind face and a smile. "Mage Nordmark, you have stolen all our jobs." "Archmage Morton, this one is?" Greet asked blankly. "Archmage Morton is a great magician in the medical field. I have dealt with him before. A disciple of this gentleman's disciple once stole a strain of penicillium from his magic tower. After the incident, Archmage Morton and his own disciples were sent to the New World. Later, during the anthrax epidemic, Archmage Morton even brought his disciples to help Gretel. Everyone has been working together happily, but who is this female magician he brought? Have I met her? Have you listened to her lectures? The clothes look like they are from the conjuration system, maybe also from the medical field. What direction are you in? Is it in the direction of obstetrics and gynecology?" While searching for memories, I saw Grandma Salia not far away taking a step forward and smiling at the female magician. Archmage Morton introduced. "Don't you know? This is Ms. Dorothea X. Laban, a 13th level Grand Magician, medical branch. Her baby-friendly medical clinic has been handling pregnancy and childbirth for female magicians for many years. Research work on medical magic. Ah, this. It seems like I really stole someone's job." Greet felt a little embarrassed for a moment. But the old lady stepped forward slowly and shook his hand. "The palms of my hands are dry and warm, and when I smile, the crow's feet at the corners of my eyes gather together softly. Master Nordmark, you have taken a path that we have been unable to take for a long time. You have provided great protection for us women and all mothers and babies. No, I'm just standing on the shoulders of those who came before me." Gretel reflexively wanted to say something modest, but before he could speak, the old lady continued with a smile. "In comparison, we receive high funding from the Parliament every year, but we can't reach your level. It's really shameful. Can you give me that money?" Gretel's eyes lit up. And then, as expected, through the spiritual connection, a sentence floated into his mind. "Master Nordmark, can I take a few students to study at Oak Grove Medical Clinic? The funding can be easily discussed. It sounds like the rhythm of money rolling in. Happy New Year's Eve and Happy New Year. I wish you all auspiciousness in the year of the tiger, may the tiger be strong, and may wealth come rolling in. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Please ask for the last monthly pass this month and the guaranteed monthly pass next month. You must give it to me. Thanks to at Yamengbing for the 10,000 starting coins. Thanks to at Red Snowdens for the 500 starting coins. Note, the first woman to receive a modern medical degree and license to practice medicine was Dorothea Erxleben, 1754, in Germany, who was specially approved by Frederick the Great. There was no second case after her for almost 100 years, until 1849, when Elizabeth Blackwell graduated from Geneva Medical College in New York State. I would like to commemorate this. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 635. Gretel followed the old lady out of the Tower of Babel, down to Igor Peak, and out of the small train station. Not far away, I saw a beautiful small villa with videos playing in a loop on the roof. A pair of warm and clean hands held up a crying baby with its umbilical cord still attached. So your medical clinic is here. Greet turned around and smiled. Ms. Axelben smiled and nodded. Yes, not all magicians are qualified to work on the peak. If the medical clinic is located here, it will be more convenient for them when they need help. As for the conjuration system auxiliary tower next to the Babel Tower, there is also a branch of the medical center. There are female magicians who persist until the last day of their due date, or who unexpectedly give birth suddenly, and they can easily get help. Let me fly up, it's better than letting them go up the mountain. Besides, the train doesn't run at night. Talking and smiling, walking briskly, he arrived at the door of the medical center in a short while. Sarah couldn't wait to jump forward and push open the small white fence. There is green grass inside, and a straight and flat road leads directly to the door of the building. Look at that width, it's enough for 2 flat cars to run parallel to each other. This medical center is so small. Sarah raised her head, then pursed her lips and let out a small vomit. It's really small, with 3 floors, a square building with up to 20 rooms. It looks smaller than Greet's villa. The old lady didn't feel dissatisfied. She turned her face sideways, looked at the beautiful elf girl and smiled softly, crow's feet gathering slightly at the corners of her eyes. How many people do you think need to come to us to have children every year? Oh. Miss Yinlong never thought about this problem at all. In fact, she has no idea how many magicians there are in Nevis and how many female magicians there are. Ms. Ixlaban pointed with a smile. We have a total of 10 wards for pregnant women here, and they are often not full. There is no need to expand them any further. Con, it is indeed a very small market. 10 wards, if each person stays there for 3 days, will only accommodate 1,000 people per year. The fertility rate among magicians is not high. It's completely different from Gretel's previous life, when every ward in a top maternal and infant hospital was full, and half of the corridor was blocked by extra beds. If you put it this way, if the richest magicians line up to give birth to their children, the total business volume of the baby-friendly medical center will be reduced by half in an instant. Gretel suddenly felt guilty. Destroying a person's wealth is like killing his parents. In his previous life, even in a public hospital, 2 directors could have pinched him for it. He glanced furtively at Ms. Axelban out of the corner of his eye. The old lady smiled, invited them into the small reception room of the medical clinic, and sat down around the table. The maid brought gingerbread and black tea. The old lady picked up the teacup and gave them a gentle lift. My mother passed away due to dystocia just after I was born. Life without a biological mother was difficult, which prompted me to establish a baby-friendly medical clinic to save the lives of mothers and children as much as possible. She looked at Gretel eagerly. I am shocked by your results here. 200 cases, no deaths. This is something we have been working hard for so many years but have never been able to achieve. Well, this is mainly because I stand on the basis of modern medicine. And caesarean section can handle many situations that normal birth cannot do. Gretel opened and closed his mouth. The old lady had already finished speaking. I would like to make a humble request. Can you allow me and the girls to learn this technique from you? Any conditions and any price will do. Don't say that. Greet quickly stretched out his hand to stop him. The experience accumulated through many years of work at the baby-friendly medical clinic is also a very valuable asset to us. We can just learn from each other. If you are willing to bring your team to my place to observe, I very much welcome it. The old lady immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The 2 sides continued to talk in depth, and Greet realized that not every female magician could afford the high cost of spells. In fact, most of them only gave birth under the care of midwives and did not need medical spells. For those who needed medical spells, the council paid part of it, and they only had to pay a very small part themselves. Medical insurance. Gretel blurted out. The old lady thought for a moment and nodded repeatedly. According to your statement, it is indeed quite similar to the shipping insurance of current sea traders. Well, basically it is like this. All magicians, regardless of whether they are male or female, must pay part of their income from work to the parliament as taxes. Of course, if the salary is paid directly by the parliament, these taxes will be deducted in advance. The council then pays a portion of the taxes to each medical clinic. This fund is divided into two parts. One part is a fixed research fund, which proposes research directions and declares a budget to the Parliament every year. The other part is the cost of treatment, with regular statistics on the amount, purpose, who was treated, what disease, and what magic was used. The general ledger is calculated every quarter and reimbursed by the council on a pro rata basis. When magicians go to these designated medical centers to receive treatment, they can get a heavy discount on the fees they need to pay themselves. Just like the students at the Magic Academy, they can get a discount for seeking medical treatment at the Port Medical Center. For magicians with lower levels, who have poor payment ability and really need medical treatment, the reimbursement rate can reach more than 80%. You can only enjoy payment discounts when you treat patients at medical clinics that have signed contracts with the council. Master Nordmark, is your Oak Grove Medical Clinic on this list? Ah, ha ha, ha ha. Gretel's eyes wandered wildly. His medical clinic was established less than a year ago. When it was established, it did receive funding from the Parliament, but things like designated medical care. No one told him that there was such a thing. No one told him that the Congress also had medical insurance and a system like designated medical insurance units. By the way, can I get reimbursement from the Congress for the treatment of any injury or illness? That's definitely impossible. The old lady looked at him strangely. Only serious injuries and illnesses can be treated with magic. For some colds and coughs, you can drink a cup of medicine and let it heal slowly. If you have to remove the disease, how can the council help you pay for it? It means that excessive medical treatment is not allowed, and for treatments that are not covered by medical insurance, you have to pay for them yourself. It does sound reasonable. Otherwise, the council's finances will one day be overwhelmed by treatment costs. How long has your medical clinic been open? I don't know. Oh, you are from the plasticity department, and no one tells you these things. Really, how come you are such a weirdo in the plasticity department? Gretel, T. It's not that the plasticity department made me such a weirdo, but that I fell in love with the magic research of the plasticity department and had to sharpen my head to get into it. Also, most magicians belong to a small circle. There is an unknown distance between the circles of the medical branch of the conjuration system and the thunder and lightning branch of the evocation system. Greet opened a medical clinic, but no one really told him what to do with these procedures. If we can come to your place to study, I can help you complete the contract signing procedures for the Oak Grove Medical Clinic, the old lady said slowly and leisurely, one by one. As the only medical clinic in the entire Magic Council that specializes in childbirth care for female magicians, she was quite confident in saying this. Which magician dares not to give her face? Who dares? In addition to contract signing at designated sites, I can also help you apply for research expenses and treatment expenses. By the way, which treatment expenses can be paid by the council and which ones have to be paid by the patient themselves, I can explain to you carefully so that you will not suffer a loss. Ah, health insurance. When you arrive in another world, you still have to face medical insurance. Greet knows it too well. If you don't understand this thing, the Medical Insurance Bureau will not recognize the expenses you declare, and the hospital will have to pay. In the past, the hospital paid most of the money, and the department and the doctor himself paid the small share. Now, it all comes from his own pocket. Thank you so much. Come and communicate with us, there will be no problem, as long as you abide by my rules. The price is also very simple, it is the same for everyone, each person can cure 20 poor mothers every year. It's a deal. The old lady leaned back, and the wrinkles on her face relaxed one by one, feeling particularly relaxed and comfortable. Next, it's time for teaching. Greet sat up straight and listened attentively. He was prepared to hear a long list of basic medical insurance drug catalogs, diagnosis and treatment items, medical service facility standards, single disease payment, and so on. Who knew? Actually, there is only one principle. Serious illness, serious injury, the kind that kills people, the kind that requires you to lie down for several months, or the kind that will make you disabled, the Parliament will reimburse you. Just bear with it. It can be cured with medicine, so please pay for it yourself. Money. It's like midwifery. If you can give birth on your own and just want to save some energy, you have to pay for it yourself. If you can't give birth on your own and need magical support, the council will pay for it. But who has the final say? Does the healer have the final say? Well, the council will also come to do spot checks, especially prophecy magicians. With the record book, they can sometimes reproduce the situation at the time. So fraud is impossible. I can't get enough of that brain. Gretel cupped his chin. So, what are the relevant medical insurance rules for caesarean section? After all, some people will die without a caesarean section, some people can have a caesarean section or not, and some people don't need a caesarean section. You have the final say on this, the old lady smiled and said. After all, you invented it, and you make the rules. However, 200 cases are too few and not convincing at all. Gretel lowered his head and thought for a moment, then looked at Ms. Axelban. Can we work together? A 13th level great magician, how many years has she been operating this medical clinic? 1,000 cases a year, 10,000 in 10 years, 30,000 in 30 years. It is much more convenient and more convincing to summarize the patterns from 30,000 cases than from 200. We work together to create the rules and submit them to Parliament. We have research funds, we have designated medical insurance funds, we have customers, we have people to work. May all your wishes come true. Oh yeah. I wish all book friends a prosperous year of the tiger. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Please give me a guaranteed monthly ticket for this month. Thanks to @RedSnowdens, @itsGU for the 500 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 636. Third-rate companies make products. This was the situation when Gretel first opened the medical clinic. Sit back and wait, waiting for patients to come in, and then treat each one. As for customer sources and income, what are these? Second-rate companies build brands. This is what happened after Greet gradually gained a reputation as a medical clinic. I can treat diseases that others can't treat, and I can also treat diseases that others can't. I can even treat diseases that others don't even know what they are. First-class enterprises set standards. This is a situation that Greet originally thought would take several years, but now it can be achieved in one step. Moreover, you can directly cooperate with the Medical Insurance Bureau. What does that mean? Private hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, and medical device manufacturing companies around the world would probably smile crookedly if they got this power. If I say I can reimburse, and if I say I can't reimburse, I can't reimburse. This is equivalent to the Medical Insurance Bureau opening its pockets and letting me dig money out of it. Of course, it is not easy to obtain this power. In the words of the old lady, you should at least publish an article about arcane. Only papers published in Magic and Arcana, the two top journals, are qualified to promote policy changes and are qualified to put the matter of adding new charging items to medical insurance on the table. Of course, this is an almost impossible task for a normal 6th-level magician. What about Gretel? The old lady took off her reading glasses, threw a cleaning tool, and put them back on the bridge of her nose. After adjusting, he looked at Gretel and smiled. But this isn't too difficult for you, right? You have published several papers on magic and arcane so far. But no matter how many articles you publish, the requirements for papers in top journals are very high. Either they are studying top magic, they are breaking through the problems that have troubled the magic world for many years, or they are from a high position and have strong guidance. The paper Gretel had published before was about heart surgery, the one before that was about smallpox vaccines, and the one before that was a joint work with other magicians on infrared ultraviolet rays. It can be said that every paper has epoch-making significance and can occupy several lines in the history of medicine, or even the entire history of science. As for caesarean section, if he only elaborated on the operation itself, he would have already finished writing it. Copy a little bit from the book, extract a little bit from my own surgical records, and think it will be enough for a paper. However, if we want to establish a standard that is sufficient to negotiate with Parliament. For example, what are the surgical indications for caesarean section, which are absolute indications and which are relative indications? Which spells are absolutely necessary, and which spells are needed under certain circumstances? The accumulated data from 200 cases is not enough. Madam, can I collaborate with you to write this paper? As a joint author, I will be responsible for the specific writing and you will be responsible for providing the information. Young man, have you taken a fancy to my cases? MSX Lieben laughed happily. This Nordmark mage is really high-spirited. He writes papers as soon as he wants, such as Arcane. When he wants to publish an article, he feels that he can publish one. Even if she, a 13th level magician, wanted to publish a top-level paper, she would have to spend a year or even several years of arduous research. In this way, we are only 50% sure at best. She shook her head and nodded again without waiting for Gretel's persuasion. Ah, of course you can use the information I have here at will. But you can't do it in parallel. Listen to me, this treatment method is your original creation, and I didn't do any work in it. She raised a finger, shook it, and pointed outward. At most the second author, no more. Or, I can send a student to help you, and you list her name as the second author. Greet decisively reached a cooperation with her and dug out a lot of information. A space bag couldn't even fit in, so he called 2 freight carriages to transport these precious medical records back to his mage tower. MS Ixleben has been involved in obstetrics and gynecology for more than 30 years, delivering tens of thousands of women and recording hundreds of deaths. In the eyes of the old lady, these records were regrets and pain, but in Gretel's eyes, these records were living gold mines. Moss! Moss! He started shouting as soon as he reached the door of the mage tower. There was a flash of light at the entrance of the tower, and a gust of breeze floated out, and the two faced each other and swirled on the spot. Greet knew that Moss had sent the invisible servants without having to identify them. Help me put these into the study and put them away. Hey, put them according to the year, put one cabinet for each year, then pick out all the death records, and put a red ribbon on each death record. Master, please allow Moss to remind you that your study cannot accommodate so much information. Moss's flat voice floated outside the door of the mage tower. Greet didn't even think about it. Then put it in the bedroom. The living room. Make an empty room. Anyway, I'll leave it to you. I'm going back to the hospital first. When I come back, I hope to see all the death records sorted out. After saying that, he jumped on Appa, turned around and ran away. In the air, there was the intensive sound of Appa's hooves and Moss's faint sigh. Master, without Moss, how would you live your life? Gretel was busy at the hospital until the evening, and received a bunch of new patients, and then came back lazily lying on the back of the silver moon deer. Climbing into the mage tower, Lai was transported to the top of the tower in the elevator, and wandered into the study half dead. Hundreds of eyes floated, flashed, and blinked at him. Moss. Gretel's hair stood on end. What did you do for me? He was scared to death in the middle of the night. Master, there is no whole piece of red silk in the mage tower, so I have to cut this piece. In my impression, Moss is still a newly purchased tower spirit with a very stereotyped personality that has not been artificially trained. How did it become like this? Is it because he and Taling are too young? Or was it a bad influence? Or should he fulfill the duties of a mage tower master and give the tower spirit a lot of data so that he can immerse himself in calculations every day? Greet hummed and entered working mode, pulled out a medical record book with a red ribbon, and opened it. The mother was 25 years old and in good health. She was sent to the hospital 1 hour after her water broke. She was in pain for 15 hours, her cervix could not be opened halfway, and she was weak. She was supported by encouragement, soothing, and rejuvenation techniques. In 3 hours, use the encouragement technique once, the soothing technique once, and the rejuvenation technique twice, and open the cervix to 6 fingers. Heartbeat 85 beats/min, breathing 25 beats/min. 5 hours, extremely weak. On the 6th hour, he suffered a sudden convulsion and died after resuscitation failed. So what's going on? What about maternal blood pressure? Fetal position? Fetal heart rate? Sudden convulsions may be eclampsia, but it may not be. In fact, there are many other causes that can cause convulsions, including hysteria, hypertensive encephalopathy, cerebrovascular accidents, epilepsy, intracranial tumors, hypoglycemia, hypocalcemia, etc. Heap. There are not enough records, and there is not even early prenatal checkup, which is really troublesome. This information cannot be used at all. Gretel thought about it and pulled out another medical record. This one had even less information. Hemorrhage started when it was delivered. He was rescued for 2 hours and used treat serious injury 3 times. The fetus failed to be delivered and the mother died. As for why there is heavy bleeding? Is it placenta previa? Placental abruption? Or various other reasons? Sorry, no. This information is not very useful. So, out of hundreds of death records, how many are usable? Gretel slapped it flat on the table, holding his head and lamenting. After sighing a few times, I got up and was about to smoke my third portion when there were several knocks at the door of the study. "Come in," Gretel shouted without looking back. However, no one came in at the door. Instead, it was Moss's unchanging voice. "Master, your letter." So it was the invisible servant knocking on the door just now? Or the knocking sound effect you simulated with Moss? Moss, you are getting more and more naughty. But there are indeed letters. The invisible servant came in with a copper plate, placed a beautifully framed letter on his desk, and touched a knife to help open it. Gretel lamented that Moss was getting smarter and smarter. He took out the letter paper and took a look. "Dear Master Nordmark. Hello. I am glad to hear that you have achieved considerable results in caesarean section delivery and are ready to start writing a thesis. In view of the fact that this technology can widely benefit every magician, we sincerely invite you to publish your paper in Ordinary Magician Monthly. Sincerely yours, Elena Murray. Ordinary Magician Monthly Editorial Department. Very good, the paper has not been finished yet, and there is already a journal guarantee. If it were not for the purpose of fighting with the high-level officials of the Parliament, it would be a good idea to post it directly, as more people would see it. Moss, help me draft a reply letter, just saying that I am grateful for his invitation, but I am still working hard on writing the paper and will not consider the direction of submission for the time being." "Okay, Master." Gretel took out the 3rd, 4th, and 5th cases, and sighed while reading them. After reading the 5th case, I stood by the window and rubbed my eyes. Suddenly I saw a light spot growing from small to large, flying straight towards the master tower. Flying closer and closer, getting brighter and brighter. Until closer, it turns out to be a metal bird. With a gorgeous and splendid figure and long tail feathers, he made an extremely light turn outside the window and landed on the window lattice. He slightly poked his head and said click and click twice. "Which Archmage's messenger is this?" Greet opened the window curiously, and the bird fluttered in and spit out a roll of parchment tied with a ribbon. Greet opened it and saw that it was also a letter of invitation. "Dear Master Nordmark. Hello. We're delighted to hear that you've started writing your thesis on Caesarean section. Magic Editorial Department. Okay, Magic is also here to request a manuscript. This is a great thing. Magic and arcana are roughly equal to nature and science in the previous life, and their influence is equally great. No matter which book you vote for, your persuasiveness will be strong enough to stand before the Parliament confidently. However, what I really want to submit is Cell, or The Lancet or New England. In this world, besides magic and arcana, why can't there be a life? I wish all book friends a prosperous year of the tiger. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Please give me a guaranteed monthly ticket for this month. If there is no double at the end of this month, please vote for me as soon as possible. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 637. Greet originally thought that he finally had a chance to choose between magic and arcane. Well, although he still prefers arcane, the two top magazines, arcane is more theoretical, and magic is more application-oriented. Generally speaking, the style of theory is always a little higher than application. It's like the magic world always attaches a little more importance to the arcane level than the magic level. Although, the magic level means being able to fight. However, before Gretel had time to finish writing this paper, or in other words, he had just set up a framework, he found that he had lost the right to choose. Is this your next paper? At the regular meeting on Monday, the Lord of Thunder took the outline of the paper that Greet respectfully presented and flipped through it. Well, this time it's not about magic research. So when can this kid do something serious? Forget it, give up. Anyway, you can't force the head of a cow if it doesn't drink water. What a magician studies must be of interest to him, otherwise he won't be able to study anything well. In the past few years, Greet has not been doing his job properly and has not delayed his advancement. Let him be. Regardless of the research direction, publishing papers still has to be managed. The Lord of Thunder flipped through the outline of the paper from beginning to end, reading it word by word, and shook his head. Insufficient data. Yes. We have cooperated with the baby-friendly medical center and are sorting out the data from previous decades. Theoretical analysis is not enough. Yes, various records such as electrocardiograms, ultrasound images, heartbeats, and respirations will be attached for analysis and classification. Too few references. Where is the reference for this? I have never heard of anyone else doing Caesarean section in this world. Moreover, I checked a round of information when I started the topic. I found everything I could find in the big library of the Tower of Babel. Your efforts are too little. The Lord of Thunder glanced at the young disciple leisurely. In the early years, before the glory god cult took over the mainland, the previous empire had regulations that required pregnant women who died to have their stomachs cut open and the fetuses to be taken out before they could be buried. There were many notes and documents left at that time. Go look for them. Ah, oh. In earlier years? How many years earlier? More than 1,000 years? In my impression, the glory divine religion has been dominant in the mainland and suppressed all other forces for at least 1,000 years. Where can I find 1,000 years of information? Or should I go digging in Black Crow Swamp? A group of disciples held their breath attentively, listening to the exchange between the Lord of Thunder and his junior brother, and all of them cast envious looks. Sure enough, when the youngest one was taking advantage and the teacher was giving instructions on their papers, he had never been so pleasant. If you are lucky, you will snort coldly and say, "You still write like a human being." If you are not lucky, the teacher will find some mistakes, and that's it, you will get a sarcastic reprimand, with all kinds of lightning and thunder. After taking the paper back, I saw that all the erroneous contents on the paper, including those few pages, had been burnt by the electric current. Could you please give me some pointers on where to find references? Non-existent. If I don't let you go digging for gold in the sand of the great library, I'll be treating you well. Of course, this may be because Greet writes about medical treatment, which does not overlap with the teacher's research scope. If you study lightning, flames, sound waves, force fields, etc., if you don't scold them harshly if you make mistakes, you may be able to kill yourself during experiments. By the way, do you know what the Lord of Radiance thinks about using magic to help with childbirth? Should this also be included? I haven't studied the teachings over there at all. Go and do some research and write it into a paper. You can also make a few comments. The Lord of Thunder raised the corner of his mouth slightly. You'd better move quickly. There will be a spot for you in Arcane next month. Yes. Okay, the teacher is the review editor of Arcana. With his status as a teacher, it is normal that he prefers Arcana. Therefore, I have to write this paper better so that no one will say that the teacher is seeking personal gain with power. So how do I reply to magic? Just say that the teacher has ordered me to send it to Arcana, so thank you very much for the invitation. Gretel left with the outline of his thesis in hand. The group of people held their breath attentively until they stepped into the elevator, and then a slender but powerful palm slammed into Gretel's back. Little Gretel, you must write this article well. Make the glory god sect such a bunch of scum so angry. Phi, senior sister Philby. Gretel turned his head inch by inch. Ms. Philby is the senior sister who studies electromagnetism. She began to push Maxwell's equations after observing alternating current. When Gretel thought of her, there was only one word in her mind. Can't afford to offend, can't afford to offend. Yeah. A bunch of scumbags actually said that women deserve to suffer during pregnancy and childbirth. It's the punishment for their original sin. Around Philby, a group of magicians, especially female magicians, were talking. Doctrine prohibits the provision of magical assistance to women in childbirth. You deserve to die. That's one of my good sisters. She bled to death on the steps of the Glory Cathedral. After she died, she was accused of polluting the church with her dirty blood, and her family was fined 1,000 gold shields. It was only after I witnessed something like this that I decided to escape to Nevis. I don't want to be barred from receiving treatment when I get pregnant and have children in the future. Go and look up their holy scriptures. It's in the library of the Tower of Babel, and it's in chapter 3 of volume 1. I will increase your pain in pregnancy, and you will have more pain in giving birth to children. What? Suffering during pregnancy is punishment, childbirth pain is punishment, illness and injury are punishment, everything is punishment from God. What else do we humans need to do? What do we magicians need to do to study hard and change the world? Gretel made a fist. It is the natural responsibility of healers to protect human beings from pain. Remember to write this in your paper. By the way, do you need any help with this research? Senior sister Philby swept her curly hair elegantly. Manpower? Funds? Magic configuration? Or something else? Or are there other types of magic that you don't understand and can't find anyone to ask? Just ask. If my senior sister can help you, I will definitely help you. If you can't help, you can still find someone. Well, the manpower problem already has a solution. In the magic configuration, prenatal examination mainly relies on B ultrasound and physical examination, and surgery relies on surgical skills. This cannot be solved by the magic configuration. Drugs, hormones, etc., synthetic oxytocin, etc., it is estimated that potion science is not yet able to reach this level. The rest who can help? Brothers and sisters, can you help me get one if I have a relatively strong magic energy source? I can only use my own magic power to export meditation images 3 or 5 times a day, and I can't find a great magician to do it full time. There was silence in the elevator for a moment. After a moment of silence, Archmage Baebo, the master who studied Yanjian explosion, whispered in a low voice. To solve your problem, should we build a mage tower in the medical clinic? I wish all book friends a prosperous year of the tiger. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Please give me a guaranteed monthly ticket for this month. It's February 2nd, and there are still people who haven't voted for the guaranteed monthly vote. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 638. Building a mage tower is not an excessive demand. After all, the mage tower is every magician's dream, and it is also a display requirement during the research process. Unlimited energy, computing power that is n times greater than the mage's own, and a space that is entirely his own. Except for the bosses who are qualified to sit in the Tower of Babel or enjoy the resources of the 8 auxiliary towers, almost any magician wants to have a magician tower of his own. That is something more important than a girl, no, than a wife. Even if my wife can lend it out, the mage tower will not lend it out. The problem is, Gretel, you already have a mage tower, or a high-level mage tower. If you want to apply to the council to build one for you, even if you are willing to pay in full, the queue will take a long time if the brothers and sisters contribute. The older brothers and sisters exchanged glances. Then, Archmage Baebo asked tentatively. Greet, is your need temporary or long-term? If you need it to save information during this period, you might consider buying a batch of mana potions to buy one. The problem is that this need is long-lasting and runs through. Gretel grimaced. For each of my patients, if there is a need for examination, I hope to keep the examination records as much as possible. I used to rely on my own hand drawing, but the hand drawing is always not as accurate as the magic image. Moreover, it is best to have a tower spirit to help analyze data. It is impossible to drag all the patients to the mage tower for examination. Moreover, in addition to X-rays, electrocardiograms, cardiac angiography, and B ultrasounds, if conditions permit in the future, we will also need to undergo CT scans. Going for NMR. Even for 3-dimensional color Doppler ultrasound, the amount of calculation is terrible. It's all up to me, I can't hold it any longer. It will not be easy to get another mage tower. Not making enough contributions, for example, last time Gretel established the public health system of Neva City alone, and was rewarded with a mage tower. Of course, this was also due to the fact that he single-handedly killed half of the holy city of the glorious religion and forced out a powerful magic spell from the Pope. The council couldn't reveal the rewards openly, so they could only pack them up and stuff them in secretly. It seems that all you have to do is work hard to write your thesis, Gretel. After a long silence, Archmage Baebo patted Gretel on the shoulder. Write an epoch-making paper, alarm the entire parliament, and then use the need for further research as a reason to ask them for the mage tower. 1 article is not enough, 2 articles is not enough, 3 or 5 articles are not enough. As long as you write well enough, mage, there will always be a tower. Yes, a high-quality paper can overcome all dissatisfaction, Archmage Philby added with a smile. Furthermore, your choice of topic also brings attention to it. Any magician, Even if he is really unmarried and infertile, there will be a period of time when he wants to get married and have children. Moreover, 3 of the 8 legends stationed at the peak are where's the female magician. As a woman, she knew very well what those legends would think of Greet's research. It would be good if the pain during childbirth could be reduced a little bit, not to mention that Greet's research can save lives. Greet took the order and left. Hey, for something like the Mage Tower, it's not like buying a bottle of soda. You can just open the cap and get another bottle. If you want such a big thing, your contribution must be heavy. Exit the gate of Babel Tower, turn left, and go straight to the Tower of Sleeplessness. Go see what secret materials the necromancer has hidden away. The necromancer does exist. Lin En's teacher, Archmage Edgar, took him to the library to look through information while reading. You should have come to us a long time ago, no one has more information on how to cut people open than we do. From 2,000 to 3,000 years ago to now, we have it. As he talked, he walked deep into the library. After greeting the tower spirit and verifying his identity, Archmage Edgar began to chatter, throwing materials into Gretel's hands one by one. Well, these are the anatomy records and maps in the Book of the Dead. This is the king's law of the Numa dynasty on the mainland 2,000 years ago. It stipulates that pregnant women who die must remove their fetuses before burial. Anyone who violates this will violate the fetus's right to survival. Which specific article is it? Please look back. Turn it over yourself. This is a case from the Guanghui divine religion some time ago, probably 100 years ago. A doctor was hanged because he did not remove the fetus from the belly of a dead pregnant woman. Tisk, the charge was blasphemy. Gretel looked over his shoulder. It turns out that the Guanghui cult stipulates that the corpse should be forced to undergo a caesarean section and the fetus should be taken out and baptized. Refusal to do so means that the soul of the fetus is not saved. You said you didn't save people when they were alive, but cut them out for baptism after they were dead. He couldn't help complaining, what are you planning on doing? In short, Greet held a bunch of information and returned to his mage tower happily. Archmage Edgar sent him all the way to the door of the Tower of Sleeplessness, reluctant to part with him. If you need information, remember to come to us to find it. There are many atlases. You can borrow the body if you want. After looking back for a while, he actually found a document reporting on 14 cases of successful caesarean sections for surviving pregnant women. But it is a pity that this article was not written by the artist himself. It was all told by friends, and its authenticity is doubtful. It's okay to do a historical review, but to make arguments, forget it. Scroll down further and see another case where the fetus survived and the mother herself died of massive hemorrhage. Wait a minute, there wasn't even a healing spell. Apart from the necromancer, there are no other spellcasters present. Greet sadly discovered that his way of thinking has moved closer to this world. Obviously, all kinds of surgeries in his previous life did not have any magical power. In any case, the information collected from Black Crow Swamp is rich enough to make a good paper. Greet immersed himself in writing, starting from the origin and historical development of caesarean section, writing and writing. Oops. The word count has been exceeded. A retrospective review alone is enough for a paper. You know, in Arcana, the length allocated to each paper is no more than 8 pages at most. Forget it, let's discuss the deletion, editing and refining later. Let's finish writing the paper first. Moss, help me get the medical records from bookshelf No. 3. Okay, master. In the study, calmness returned again, and all you could hear was the sound of the endless ink pen rubbing against the paper. At the weekly meeting half a month later, the Lord of Thunder looked at the stacks of papers that Gretel had brought out, and his face turned dark in a rare way. Above his head, thunder and lightning flashed, and thin white lights flew across the monocle. Are you trying to fill up Arcana? One issue of Arcana alone will not be enough to publish your paper. Hey. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Please give me a guaranteed monthly ticket for this month. It's February 2nd, is there anyone who has voted for the guaranteed monthly ticket? Note, Western records of Caesarean section can be traced back to ancient Rome. According to legend, from 715 BC to 67 BC, the Numa Pompilius dynasty of ancient Rome promulgated the law of Caesarean section, which stipulated that the fetus of a dying woman or pregnant woman must be removed by Caesarean section before burial. This may have been the origin of cadaveric Caesarean section. Note 2, by the Middle Ages, the religious significance of Caesarean section was greater than the medical significance. For example, the Catholic Church enforced autopsy. In uterine delivery, the fetus is removed and baptized to save its soul. In 1749, a doctor in Sicily was executed for failing to remove the fetus from the body of a pregnant woman. Note 3, in 1581, Franco Isauset reported 14 cases of successful Caesarean section on surviving pregnant women. This was the first time that this procedure was described in medical literature. What is reported is not done by the author himself, but is information obtained from friends. Note 4, the first Caesarean section woman died of postpartum hemorrhage in 1610. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 639. The Lord of Thunder endured, and endured. It took a long time not to release the mage's hand and slap the paper on Gretel's head. Chapter 1, Looking back at the origins of Caesarean section surgery. Chapter 2, A successful Caesarean section. Chapter 3, The clinical value of Caesarean section for complete placenta previa. Chapter 4, The necessity and method of Caesarean section for umbilical cord prolapse. Looking further down, there are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a thick stack, and the subtitles of each section are almost the same. Or do you want to dismantle these and publish them? It's not that they can't be dismantled. The question is, how many articles do you want to publish in Arcane? Is this? Calm down, Gretel is just a level 6 little magician, you can't beat him, he will die if you beat him. Bang 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 bang. Ouch. Greed held his forehead and screamed. Teacher, you acted too quickly, and you didn't even have time to hide. On both sides of the front, the older disciples looked at the Lord of Thunder with admiration and even awe. Everyone knows how to fire magic missiles, but if you control the magic missiles so accurately, and hit the same landing point 5 times in a row, it will only hurt but not hurt, it will only be red but not purple, and it will not break the skin or bleed. And the magic missile is still wrapped with traces of electric light. Paralysis, control, and maybe a little bit of pain relief. In an extremely low-end little magic, energy can be mobilized across departments. He is indeed a legendary mage. The Lord of Thunder let out a bad breath and finally felt that his chest felt much better. Calm down, lower your head and read the paper again, M. Even if he wanted to beat his apprentice again, he had to admit that Gretel's papers were very meaningful. It can even be said that it is quite novel, groundbreaking and instructive. Except for the review of that chapter, which is a little watery, any other chapter is absolutely justified if it is taken out alone and occupies a seat in Arcane. However, I thought of arranging these papers in a row, one for each month, and publishing them in Arcana one after another. As long as the Lord of Thunder thinks about it for a moment, he feels pain in the lungs, liver, stomach, and everywhere in his body for the editor-in-chief of Arcane. You, shorten it a bit, pick out the most representative one, and post it on Arcane. For the rest, you can post it on Magic or Ordinary Magician. Send your hair wherever you like. So Arcane cannot be watered down, Magic can be watered down, and other journals can be watered down more casually, right? Teacher, you can't be so partial just because you are the review editor of Arcana. Greet silently cursed. He looked directly at the Lord of Thunder, answered decisively and without hesitation. Okay, teacher. Greet went back to revise the manuscript frantically. Well, it's not crazy to say it's crazy, at least the content is ready-made, you just need to cut, copy and paste. As for the problem of not having a computer, just pen and paper. Moss, help me transcribe this paragraph onto a new piece of paper. Okay, boss. Boss, since I have helped you so much, can you consider giving me 1% more of the energy share of the element pool? Hey, what do you want this for? You don't need to practice to advance. Boss, just tell me whether to give it or not. If you don't give it, you won't work. If you don't do it, then do it, Greet snorted and waved. At the corner of the wall, a dark gold skeleton walked over and bent towards the table. You want to help me with the writing? Hey, at least grab a stool and sit on it. Nervous, the training of dark gold skeletons is always a problem. When will Lynn's golden skeletons be as easy to use? In any case, Gretel hurriedly scribbled on the paper before the regular meeting next week and successfully compiled 2 large manuscripts. One article is in the direction of clinical medicine. It classifies the dozen or so cesarean sections performed so far and writes a summary report. There are patient conditions, surgical methods, and postoperative recovery conditions. It is exactly the same idea as the paper on interventional treatment of heart disease that was published in Arcana last time. The other article is in the direction of public health. Based on all maternal data from Oak Grove Hospital, the ratio of maternal deaths to births in Neva City over the past 20 years was compared. Comparing the maternal mortality rate between the two, one is temporarily 0, while the other is as high as 2.4%. The bloody comparative data proves the necessity of cesarean section. Of course, the history of surgery can be traced, the differences between the judgment methods of each indication and surgical methods, and the summary of surgical indications. These can be published one by one, slowly. There are a lot of surgical indications for cesarean section, just in terms of absolute indications. Each of them can be published in its own article. The head and basin are not weighed. Post an article. An article about placental abruption. Post an article about placenta previa. Post an article about fetal distress. This is what everyone does anyway. The development of medicine always starts with one indication, gradually expands it, and then modifies the surgical procedure according to the different indications. Writing in this way can also avoid having too little information and making the summary unfocused and unconvincing. Breaking it down further, we can post a few more articles on the measurement methods of cephalopelvic disproportion. You can write one article each about the clinical manifestations and diagnostic methods of fetal distress. In the diagnostic method, B ultrasound belongs to B ultrasound, fetal heart rate monitoring belongs to fetal heart monitoring, and fetal movement monitoring belongs to fetal movement monitoring. After writing the absolute indications, there are still a lot of relative indications. The relative indications have been written, but there are still a lot of social factors. Then, you can also write about the comparison between cesarean section and vaginal delivery in various aspects, from maternal recovery to baby development. You can even leave it to Pastor Joanna to write. Leave it to Ms. Ixlaban to write. Leave it to the other therapists at the baby-friendly medical center and the priests who helped him write. Even if the necromancers are developed to help with the surgery, they can also be left to the necromancers to write. Well, of course, whether the pregnant women agree to be operated on by the necromancer is another matter. Perhaps, they can be ordered to self-trap. No matter what, the output is rich and endless. He is responsible for communication, others are responsible for writing, and each person writes several articles. Everyone shares the profit and everyone is happy. Once they are all written and put together, a book can be published. Hey. So, which one do you want to publish, Arcana, and which one do you want to publish, Magic? The Lord of Thunder waved his hand, suspended all the papers in front of him, and scanned them 10 lines at a time. The powerful spiritual power of the legendary mage, with just such a sweep, all the contents are engraved in the heart. However, it's a bit confusing as to which direction to submit these 2 articles. Hey, teacher, you choose first. Stop being a good boy. Say it quickly. In terms of the research depth of the paper, of course the one about surgery is more eye-catching. More than a dozen surgeries, cesarean section, removal of the baby, mother, and baby were both safe and sound. No matter where they were placed, it was something that would make one's jaw drop. However, the article on public health may still be published in Arcana. After all, it is of great significance to the entire magic world, but in magic, which is biased towards the application field, it is easy to be published in the wrong direction because of the wrong direction. Rejection. If he rejects the manuscript, Greet will lose a top-ranked article in vain. Even though he is his teacher, he will not force him to suffer losses without giving orders. Well, teacher, how about I toss a coin and decide? In fact, I have also received an invitation to write for Magic before, so I will give them 1 article. Stop being ridiculous. Both of these articles are excellent enough. It's more important that you make sure they are submitted. Your teacher's relationship with Arcana is just a regular review editor, and he won't care which company you submit to. The teacher is wise. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Both monthly and recommended tickets are required. Especially for recommendation votes, there is no charge anyway, just give me a little. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 640. Greet's 2 papers, Summary of 17 Successful Caesarean Section Operations and the Role of Caesarean Section in Saving Maternal Lives, were published in the latest issues of Magic and Arcane. No need to schedule, no need to wait, just come and go, highly recommended. The editor of Magic commented enthusiastically. This is an epoch-making treatment method. From now on, women no longer have to suffer from childbirth. When the fetus is about to be born, she only needs to enjoy a sweet sleep under the comfort of divine magic, and when she wakes up you can hold your newborn baby. The editor of Arcana is even more arrogant. We are very happy to see that the founder of Caesarean Section not only has endless curiosity, but also pays more attention to public welfare. And such research results can undoubtedly reduce maternal mortality, thereby benefiting the entire society development of. 2 top journals published a researcher's article at the same time and gave high praise at the same time. The influence of the treatment method of Caesarean section soon spread to every corner of the Kingdom of Kent with the publication of the journal. And, quietly across the ocean, spread across the Rhine Kingdom, Carolingian Kingdom, and other countries under the control of the glorious Holy See. Theoretically, the Holy See regards magicians as blasphemers and believers of the god of nature, god of war, and the goddess of spring as heretics. Treat their research and writings as blasphemous and heinous items. If heretics and blasphemers are caught in those kingdoms and areas controlled by the glorious Holy See, they will be imprisoned in the Inquisition and burned at the stake. If you find the holy symbols, holy robes, and various journals of the magic council of several other gods, you can immediately raid your home and arrest them. As for the products of the magic council, theoretically, of course, they are not allowed to be sold. But actually, in fact, although the holy light covers the earth equally, there are always some people who can bathe in more holy light than others. For example, if a powerful lord secretly raises a magician in his home, no one will come to the door at all. For another example, if some border lords marry a noble from the Kingdom of Kent, as long as the person they marry claims to have converted, the Glory Holy See will not find trouble without reason. For example, if a nobleman who is not too shabby has a few arcane or magic collections at home, no one will come to search for them for no reason. These days, who can really become a powerful lord, occupying a county or even a fraction of a kingdom, who doesn't have a few spellcasters, a few celestial knights, or even a legend? For example, the Rhine Kingdom, one of the 7 lords with the right to elect its king, the Marshal of the Rhine Kingdom, the Duke of Saxony with the title of Golden Lion. He himself is a level 17 Golden Knight, almost the pinnacle of the knight level. There is also an elder in the family who has lived for more than 300 years and is a legendary old monster. The only daughter Frostflower Veronica Rudolph, the next Duke of Saxony, a 12th level Grand Knight, leads troops at the border all year round to defend the Black Forest Kingdom ruled by the vampires. It is impossible for the Glory Holy See to provoke such a family and such a powerful lord unless it is a last resort. Even if the Duke of Saxony gets the newly published Arcane and Magic, it will only be half a month behind the Magic Parliament. Nina, he flipped through the newly acquired journal with a smile on his lips and waved to his daughter. If we master this skill, you will get married and have children, and your father will no longer be afraid. Tisk, how do you get that little magician? Do you want to send someone to kidnap him? Father. He is different from the great lord who is aloof and whose every move is watched by thousands of people. Level 5 female warrior Melissa Hempery accidentally got a broken page of magic while investigating smuggling in the New World. And what she saw was only the title and abstract of the paper. So far, the author of this article has completed 17 cesarean sections, in which he opened the mother's abdomen and removed the fetus to help deliver the baby. Currently, both mother and child are safe. The author will discuss the methods and indications of these operations. 17 cases. Are mother and son safe? In other words, when I give birth to a child, if I don't survive, I might use this method to save my life. Melissa rubbed her belly in the dark and pondered for a long time. A week later, she quietly found a ship owner who was engaged in maritime trade. Is there a ship to the Kingdom of Kent? These 2 papers are like 2 boulders dropped into deep water, with ripples echoing in the water. The farther and farther it travels, the less obvious the ripples seem. However, the impact of the paper only becomes more and more undercurrent as the ripples hit each entity and are constantly reflected back and forth. Of course, the Guanghui divine religion will not ignore these 2 papers. In the court, the chief referee slammed the 2 journals in front of his subordinates. Look. The deputy referee of Lucerne lowered his head, bowed, and held the paper in both hands. Reading through the past at a glance, I bowed again. This is blasphemy. This is the greatest blasphemy against our Lord. This blasphemer has committed 2 major crimes at the same time. Women suffer during childbirth because of their original sin. This is decreed by our Lord himself. All means to help them are against the decree of our Lord. The human body was created by our Lord's own hands. Cutting it is a blasphemy to our Lord. Only after the mother dies, for the sake of the well-being of the fetus's soul, can the fetus be removed by caesarean section. All other methods are blasphemous. Good. So, what are you going to do? It's been quite chaotic at sea recently, and I can't send too many manpower. When will it be resolved? As soon as possible. As soon as possible. Half a year. Half a year at most. I'll give you 1 year. If we still can't solve it in 1 year, then you will go out in person to eliminate this blasphemer. The Lucerne deputy referee only obeyed his orders and waited in front of the chief referee for a long time before resigning in disgrace. Returning to his office, he gritted his teeth secretly. Isn't that the little guy you let go before? The opponent's level 14 great magician is in front of me, and there is someone from an airship behind to help. What can I do? How did I know he would be as successful as he is now? And now I really don't have the manpower. During this time, I don't know what happened at sea, and the orcs were making a big fuss. Out of 10 merchant ships, almost 3 will encounter pirates. Even the warships of the Holy See and the pirate ships gathered together, dared to take a bite. The personnel, extraordinary beings, and fleets I could mobilize were all scattered on the sea. Before pressing down the orcs, a sufficiently powerful team must be mobilized, but it is not possible to do so. Alas, the Viper Arezzo last time didn't reply for so long. I don't know if it was lost in Nevis. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Etsweron Hongzhou for the 300 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Jialan 2020. Chapter 641. Me? Going to the Navy. Gretel looked up from the medical records with a confused look on his face. I'm a doctor. I am currently working on a cesarean section project. What kind of trouble are you going to make if you drag me to the Navy now? I'm not asking you to go to war. The Navy is about to set off, and I want you to test the level of the healers. If you need to make up for it, give them one last lesson. Gretel looked at the visitor unprepared. A level 9 medical mage looks familiar, but I can't pronounce his name. However, you are 3 levels higher than me. Is there any level you cannot test that you need me to test? Those are the things you made. We don't understand much either. You have to set the testing standards for what you made. Hurry up. Greet was dragged out alive. Ride on Appa and run all the way to the naval camp. Priests, magicians from the medical branch, and necromancers all gathered together. In the air, there was a tense smell of impending war, permeating the military camp. The sudden increase in the number of pirate ships in the Orc Kingdom is not an isolated incident. In fact, it is a big flag set by the Parliament before, and it finally started to take effect. The cooperation that the Magic Council had previously discussed with the Dwarves, Barbarians, Vampires, and Orc Kingdoms was the final agreement to unite to attack the fleet of the glorious Holy See. And before that, there are countless preparations to be done. From time to time, the vampires launch raids on the borders of the Rhine Kingdom and even in small towns a little deeper. Draw the attention of the glorious Holy See and let them send the magicians to the land border. The barbarians are still doing their old jobs, robbing in the northern part of the area ruled by the glorious Holy See, rowing longboats, robbing along the coast, and running away after grabbing a handful. The Magic Council provided them with new steel weapons, new armor, a place to sell stolen goods, and even a small amount of penicillin. Anyway, with the steam engine, the output of iron ore and steel products has increased. The orcs are responsible for the southern sea area of the Glory Holy See. In that calm, big basin-like sea, even a small wooden boat can easily cross 200 to 300 miles. The pirates swarmed up and could completely attract the attention of the Holy See Navy to the inland sea. Then, the Navy in the open sea. The glorious Holy See, as well as the Brolin Kingdom's Navy, occupy 3 continents, the Old Continent where the Holy See is located, the vast wild continent south of the Old Continent, and the most resource-rich section of the New Continent, from the Storm Islands to the southernmost tip of the continent. Especially the New World, which is far away, needs to cross oceans and storms, and sail for dozens of days at sea, which is impossible without a strong fleet. Therefore, the model of the glorious Holy Sea's rule in the New World is basically this. A fleet passed over and was stationed there for several months. Then, another fleet sailed back, carrying gold, silver, precious magic materials, and various other valuables. Every time a fleet returns, the master behind it makes a fortune. What the Parliament is eyeing and gathering all the major forces to do is the annual return fleet of the Holy See of Glory, also known as the Golden Fleet. This fleet is the largest and carries the most gold, silver, and valuables. More importantly, it is basically exclusive to the Holy See of Glory, rather than a joint venture with other kingdoms or other local lords. It would be better to cut off one of his fingers than to injure 10 of them. Weaken the power of the glorious Holy See while minimizing damage to the power of local nobles. If the people on top are weaker and the people on the bottom resist, and if they act in a positive and negative way, the possibilities will be greater. Greed had been kept in the dark about these inside stories even though he was sent to receive visitors from the vampire race half a year ago. Only the leaders of each delegation and a few core personnel sent by the Parliament knew about the joint effort to seize the fleet. Even after the agreement was reached, it was kept strictly confidential and confidential. Personnel are trained quietly, fleets are mobilized quietly, materials are purchased quietly. Even nobles who do not participate in military operations, as well as spies of the glorious religion, if there are any, must try their best to hide it. Greet, a medical geek like this who doesn't know anything outside the window, even went back to his hometown to have fun, so he didn't know anything. Until he was pulled into the military camp. In the Castor area, a large group of healers were busy. It looked like there could be nearly 100 people. Gretel estimated that if 2 healers are assigned to a ship, this scale is enough to treat 50 ships. Moreover, there cannot be more healers on a ship. Generally speaking, a large ship of 500 to 600 tons, which is already a big name in wooden sailboats, only needs a priest of level 5 or above, and at most 1 apprentice. A small ship of 1 to 200 tons may only have 1 low-level healer, or even a low-level healer. After a big battle, if your life is good, send it to the flagship for treatment. So which of them do you want me to test? A note was thrust into his hand. That afternoon, all the healers gathered together and filled a lecture theater. Invisible servants rushed from row to row in the classroom, distributing test papers, and Greet knocked on the table on the podium. No looking around. No whispering. No looking at other people's papers. No using the secret eye, no eagle eye, no sharp eyes, no magic pets. It's nerve-wracking. There are many more cheating methods in the magical world than in previous lives. Can you lend me a few archmages to invigilate the exam? I have no experience, so I can't stand it. The medical mage who invited him over solved all the problems with one command. No magic or magic is allowed. The healers, and of course the necromancers, began to answer the questions with a sad face. There are words and pictures on the paper, and there are several papers full. The antidote to ocean plague, what is the daily dose per person? Briefly describe how to take it dash. Briefly describe the preparation of penicillin skin test solution and the skin test operation method. Briefly describe the storage method of penicillin. Briefly describe the indications for penicillin. Briefly describe the dosage, preparation method, complications, and rescue methods of penicillin. Briefly describe the principles of wartime rescue. Briefly describe how to use detection magic to diagnose and reduce fractures. Tourniquet binding position and binding essentials. Draw on the diagram the location of the large blood vessels and the locations of needles for blood collection and blood transfusion. Considerations for preservation of blood transfusion devices. Sodium ascorbate suppresses sepsis. Penicillin can resist various inexplicable infections encountered during sea voyages and naval battles. Popularize wartime rescue plans. Teach blood transfusion. After counting on his fingers, Greet was proud to find that he had been able to reduce the Navy's mortality rate, well, maybe by 5 percentage points. Don't be in a daze. Take the papers quickly. After you finish, you'll have to take the practical test. If you don't pass the practical test, it's useless even if you learn the theory. Especially you, everyone in Black Crow Swamp. The classroom was full of wailing. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Good luck at the beginning of spring, and I wish you all a prosperous spring in the year of the tiger. Thanks to @bookfriend 201707222042145499 for the reward of 100 starting coins.